What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are in the Tin Cloth Jacket studio, and I've upgraded my webcam to my action cam. It's a little bit better quality, so hey, we'll see how that goes. Today's a really good episode, so stick around. We're going to talk about the paper genocide that we will call Jenny from here on out, and the census that we'll probably call senseless after this. Y'all hang out. So, it's actually 11:33 a.m. Central Standard Time, Sunday, February 1st, 2026. I'm doing a re-film of this video that I made yesterday where I talked about these ideas about Jenny and the senseless fires. Now, it turns out I'm still learning how to do this, so I had the screen showing me mostly instead of the material. So I just thought I would go through and go back through the links. Again, this is called Jenny and the senseless fires. Jenny. So stay with me, gents. Let's do this. Now, I live in Covington County, Alabama, Andalusia is the county seat of this county. The reported population as of 2020 is 37,570, and we have had multiple courthouses, and many of those burned down. Is this a common experience that we share? If it is, let's talk about it. Now, remember, if you comment, it supposedly affects the algorithm, and when you like the video, it will increase the reach. If you're interested in the ideas and you engage, then we can learn more from each other. And that is the goal, right? Learning, understanding, figuring it out, and as much as that's possible. Now, when you subscribe, it lets them know that we are trying to connect. And for now, that seems like it's alright. So, let's create some nodes, man. Also, most importantly, remember to share this with other curious individuals. And this is obviously only one of many ways in which we have been misled, barely scratching the surface of this topic. I make no claims about what may be hidden by destroying the documents representing the chain of knowledge and information. I'm just making observations. I am certain of nothing, save that I am not certain. Alright. Let's go. Let's see, where is our... It's pretty cold outside. I know everybody's got it going on where I'm at. It is 31 degrees Fahrenheit, and it feels like it's 18 degrees. We got a 19-mile-an-hour wind with 29-mile-per-hour gusts, and the air quality is excellent. That's pretty nice. It's going to get chilly tonight, low of 19 degrees. So, even down here in South Alabama, in Covington County, still cold weather. Speaking of Covington County, I was looking at some information yesterday, and it was about what's called the Three-Notch Trail. Now, we'll talk about the Three-Notch Trail some other time, but it was a set of trails where the trailheads were marked with 3 notches chopped into the tree. That's not really all about it. That's about all we learned. It was a set of trails where the trailheads were marked with 3 notches chopped into the tree. And we learned all about this in school, so I was not really all about it. That's about all we learned. I was trying to look into it just to talk about, and it made me get to the point where I looked into the population of the area of Covington County at certain times. And that's where this all really started to unravel. And I would imagine if you were to look at your own area, you might find something similar. And if you do, then let me know and let's talk about it. because there's some pieces to put together here, right? So here we go. Well, I guess technically I don't really need that because I went to all the trouble of putting this here. Now, if you're just listening, I'll try to say this so that it doesn't need to have the visual aids or anything on the screen, but I'll also have them up there. Now, I'm not going to put any links to any of the stuff that I'm looking at. I'm showing it to you on the screen. If you're really interested, just type it into the search engine, look it up, and do your own research. You might find stuff that I missed just by looking at the search result page, because I didn't go to every page. I just looked for stuff to confirm other things that I was finding and see if you know, if strings matched to other strings and whatnot. So this is a lot of research that's still left to be done. But here we go. So let's talk about Covington County. That's where I'm from. That's where I live. Andalusia, Alabama, is the county seat of Covington County. Now, just for some reference, hold up. Alright, just for some reference, there we go. Let's just take us a little look. So if you take the state of Alabama and you fold it in half and you put your finger all the way down to the bottom of the state, that's where Covington County is, alright? Fold it in half, down to the bottom, there's Covington County, right in the middle. We're called the Heart of Dixie. I mean, that's what it says on the tag, whatever. So, this is Andalusia. This is the county seat of Covington County. Now, I don't live in Andalusia. I live rurally. But as you can see, the further I zoom out, we are pretty close to Florida. It's like 20 miles from here to Florida. And like I said, right down the middle, there's Montgomery, there's Birmingham, right there, more or less, alright? You got Enterprise over here, Dothan over here, and then that's Georgia. And then we're pretty close to the coast. It's like 88 miles to Pensacola. 88 miles, man. If you can get there in an hour, you can go back in time, right? So, Covington County, alright? Now, Covington County was established, well, let's go back. The first county seat of Covington County was called Montezuma, alright? Now, Montezuma was a little settlement. Montezuma was a little settlement that was built next to the Conecuh River, which is the main waterway that runs through Covington County. I mean, there's the Yellow River as well, and there's a few little smaller. Let's just focus on the Conecuh River, alright? Trying to keep these episodes short. So, Montezuma was built on the Conecuh River, and it kept flooding, so eventually they moved it to Andalusia. But in Montezuma, the first of possibly 5 courthouses just for Covington County was built, and it burned in 1838 in Montezuma, alright? Now in 1844, the county seat moved to Andalusia, so, golly gee, man, 6 years later, they finally moved it. And so they moved the county seat to Andalusia. Now, I'm not in such a big hurry that we can't do this, alright? So check this out. Okay, so this is Andalusia, and the courthouse is right here on the square, which is just dead ass in the middle of town, alright? Now, right up here is the Conecuh River, alright? It comes down from up here through the little Dozierville. And this is Gant Lake. It's part of the river that they built out a dam, and it's a big power plant, alright? And when it comes through off of the power plant down over the dam, it becomes this little bit. And it turns into this place called Point A. And then that just turns back into the Conecuh River, and that runs down around behind the backside of Andalusia. And down here under Brooklyn Road, under the bridge, and on out of the story, alright? And somewhere right up here, right in this area right around in here, is where Montezuma would have been. I mean, if we zoomed in and turned on, this ain't Google Earth, but we will look for the remains of Montezuma one day. I don't know, might be fun. If I could find out who owns the land, we could probably go see it for real. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We'll figure that out. So that's where Montezuma, the original county seat, was. And it was moved here because this flooded, and this is higher ground. It's a good bit higher up ground up here. And it's essentially uphill from Florida all the way up to about the first plateau of where it really kind of flattens off is here in this river valley of the Yellow River. All right, that's yellow, like the color Yellow River, but the Yellow River, it flattens off and then it starts back uphill, and when it gets to Libertyville, it flattens off again. Everywhere there's like a piece of water, it runs across where there's a flats. And then when you get to town, it's essentially the top part. Well, past here starts going uphill into the real lower end of the foothills, and it gets gradually hillier as you go up toward Troy, until by the time you get up here, by the time you're up here in Union Springs around guys, it's pretty hilly up in these parts. Not like up around Birmingham, for sure, but compared to down here in Swampville and Rivertown, pretty hilly. So they moved Montezuma to there. Now, in the course of doing that, they built a new courthouse constructed from 1844 to 1845. It also burned. Number 2, it also burned. The second courthouse. Now, first one in Andalusia, but the second one for the area. And it burned in the year 1878, which, completely coincidentally and of no importance whatsoever, is 33 years from the year 1845. And it burned on January the 13th, 1878, which I checked, and that's a Sunday, FYI, not a Friday. But the number January 13th can be expressed as 113 or 11-3, right? A 1/13, if you take away the slash, those numbers are anything, right? 11 times 3, 33. 1878 here. 18 plus 7 plus 8 also equals 33. Completely coincidental. These numbers they do pop up. Nothing to see there. It was rebuilt in 1878, so that same year they threw up another one, and possibly burned in 1895, or it didn't. I saw conflicting sources on that, and when we start looking at the pages in a minute, then we'll see that. So potentially burned in 1895, but maybe it didn't burn, and maybe it was simply outgrown. And the fifth and final courthouse was built in 1916 to 1917. The exact date of completion is unknown, but it's believed to be in July of 1917. Now, the architect of the previous courthouse before the one that we currently have, so the one from 1878 to either to here if it burned down, or to here-ish if it just burnt inside, because there's conflicting stories of it did burn down and that it didn't burn down, or that it burned, or whatever, either way. The previous architect of that, his name was Walt Chamberlain, and we'll get into him in a moment, alright? The architect of our courthouse, the latest one, from 1916 to 1917, his name was Frank Lockwood. He was a notable architect of the South specifically, but other regions of the country as well, and also Walt Chamberlain designed a lot of things. We will look at these guys in a moment as well. I thought it was interesting that Frank Lockwood, who went to Princeton, That's pretty cool, right? He was born in the year 1865, and he died in the year 1935. And that is interesting to me because there's symmetry in that, right? He was born in 1865. That's 35 years on that side of the century line. And he died in 1935, and that's also 35 years on that side of the century line. That's pretty neat, right? No, it's interesting. Now, Frank Lockwood, who designed our courthouse, also designed the first National Bank building, which is a 6-story tall building on our town square that was built in 1921, closed in the Depression, has been empty my whole life, and it's now being renovated into the current plan, which my friends and I like to call Agenda 2030 style. It's businesses on the bottom and some type of housing on the next floors up, and 15-minute city style. But it's just one little 6-story building. But gotta start somewhere. So check this out. We're gonna look at some of this stuff before we carry on to the next part. All right? So I don't want to go too far into the weeds because we haven't even gotten to any of the good stuff yet. I'm still explaining the freaking courthouse. All right. So check this out. W. Chamberlain and Company, Walt Chamberlain. All right, this guy built the second courthouse, the second to last courthouse of Andalusia, which burned down or was replaced because we outgrew it. However the story goes. Now it's not listed in any of these, but I did open these up. All right, and before we do, let's look at our courthouse. All right. Yes. All right. This is an illustration of our courthouse in the early 1900s. Now, it was built in 1916 to 1917. So, this is when it was brand spanking new. And this is our jail. It's still there also. This cool building is now a theater. And this in the corner, which is I believe it was the First Baptist Church. It's got the coolest round stained glass shape on it there. I didn't pull up a picture, but we'll talk about it on another episode, right? Because this is about the courthouse and about the census, which is senseless, and Jenny. All right, sweet Jenny. Now this is Frank Lockwood. Frank Lockwood, 1865 to 1935, was one of Montgomery, Alabama's leading architects. Born in New Jersey in 1865, his parents were English. His father was an engineer. Grew up in New York City, and he was a talented singer. Offered a contract with the Metropolitan Opera, but decided to go to Princeton University and study architecture. And he went on to build some of these amazing buildings. I've been to that one, and I've seen that one on a drive-by tour. Don't know about that one, okay? So Frank Lockwood went to Princeton, all right? He built for 41 years, designed scores of residential homes, and died in 1935 at his home on Adams Avenue. The Standard Club in Montgomery, is there a picture of it here? I had all these open the other day, but what we got here, this is the Bell House, all right? This is a historic house. And I have seen so many houses that look very similar to this. There's multiple in my town. Beautiful. There's a house just like this on the street right near the courthouse. Maybe 2 blocks away. Looks a whole lot like it. And there was a whole bunch more when I was a little kid, but they tore a bunch of them down, as they do. All right? Now, so here's a better picture of the courthouse from now. This is our courthouse, all right? This is it. So that guy, Frank Lockwood, he built that. Okay? And he also built this. Now, this building is near a whole lot of other buildings that have sort of, you would never know why. I would assume it's because it's like a coal basement. That's all it would be, right? It's like half of the window is buried under the ground, and the whole rest of the room, and we don't have a lot of basements around here, but like maybe it's for coal. Whole lot of our buildings have that kind of stuff. It's like super unusual to have basements in our town, but a lot of these type of old buildings, they got big basements under them, and there's a significant drop off in the land right there. Like you can tell this was either this was built up substantially at some point, simply because look at this building, man. How big the foundation underneath that probably is. It's probably huge, you know. This could be so tall, you know. It could have 2 or 3 more stories down here. I don't know that it does, but it's got some little baby windows. Most of the buildings around here, and you know, the whole situation, a lot of that happening. But the point is, this building was been closed my entire life, and they're renovating it now. It was built by this guy Frank Lockwood, finished in 1921. Interestingly, our courthouse finished in 1917. This is when it was brand new, I suppose. Which is interesting because this is when it was brand new too. And there's just so much less to it there. Those are drawings. So, you know, probably not actual photographs, just drawings. So, this building, which was finished in 1917, in July, they believe, where does it say? It was completed, we believe, in July of 1917 at the cost of approximately $91,000. Surprisingly, we can find no record of a big celebration, open house, or any such event recognizing its completion. So they just sort of started using it. Who knows when it got finished, you know? You wouldn't keep track of that. Even though they know the exact date that the courthouse before this burnt down, January 1st, 1878. No, January 13th, 1878. I don't know when this one was finished exactly. No pictures of it being built. It's crazy, right? It's wild. And in 1916, we had... In 1910, the population of Covington County was 32,124. But until 1899, there was... In 1890, there was 7,500 people. But then, in 1899, the railroad came. So, there was a boom. Now, all of this population data is about to get interesting, okay? So just keep hanging in there. We're doing great. We're plowing right on through it. What's our time looking like? Oh, yeah, we're doing good. Okay, so, I've shown you the buildings. I've told you about the fellas. Now, check this out. The Great War, 1914 to 1918, was going on while this 6-story tall building was being planned and started. It got finished in 1921, but it was actually commissioned in 1910. Probably took as long to build it because of the war. But the courthouse was built smack dab during the Great War. Let's see. Alright. So all of these things were built during a time when the majority of the fighting age men were going to fight, or shortly thereafter, for instance, 1921. Now, there are 67 counties in Alabama. Yo. Alright, I'm gonna pause it right there, and we're gonna call the rest of it part 2. We're just getting into the number of counties in Alabama that had courthouses that burned down at least once, if not several times. So this is the end of part 1. Part 2 will cover the courthouses and what happened to them, and also the real reason for even talking about this is the census, the senseless census, and also Jan A. So y'all stick around, all right?